Around 400,000 years ago, in the cold landscapes of prehistoric Europe, a distinct species of human emerged. They were powerful, resilient, and biologically adapted to the harsh environment of the Ice Age. They are known as Homo neanderthalensis, Neanderthals. They are not the direct ancestors of Homo sapiens. Instead, they represent a separate evolutionary branch that developed in parallel. Anatomically, Neanderthals possessed robust builds, thick bones, wide rib cages, strong limbs, and large noses designed to warm cold air before it reached their lungs. Their brains were, on average, slightly larger than those of modern humans. There are no Neanderthal pyramids, temples, or written scripts, yet their archaeological footprint is undeniable. They crafted sophisticated stone tools, controlled fire, organized communal hunts, and buried their dead, suggesting a degree of social structure and possibly symbolic thought. These were not primitive beings in the popular sense. They were skilled, intelligent, and well-adapted. And yet they disappeared, approximately 40,000 years ago. Neanderthals vanished from the fossil record. Their extinction coincided with the arrival of Homo sapiens in Europe. The question that still puzzles scientists today is not how they lived, but why they died out. Was it climate change, a decline in population, genetic bottlenecks, conflict with Homo sapiens, or perhaps a combination of all those factors? What we do know is this: Neanderthals had every advantage for survival, except for one: they did not continue. Their disappearance leaves behind more than just bones. It leaves a set of questions about evolution, intelligence, and vulnerability. Why did a species with such biological strength and cognitive potential fail to persist, while Homo sapiens, physically more gracile, went on to populate the entire planet? Today, fragments of Neanderthal DNA still exist in the genomes of modern humans, especially among European and Asian populations. These genetic traces prove that interbreeding occurred, and that part of their legacy lives on. But genetics alone cannot fully explain who they were, or why they're no longer here. And Neanderthals stand as a reminder that survival in the evolutionary race is not determined solely by strength or brain size. It is shaped by a complex interaction of adaptation, cooperation, flexibility, and perhaps timing. Their story is not one of failure. It is one of mystery, a vanished chapter in the human saga, written in bones and buried in ice. And in understanding why they disappeared, we may better understand what it means to survive. Section 2. When humans were prey. In the early chapters of human evolution, our ancestors were not apex predators, they were prey. Homo habilis and Homo erectus lived in ecosystems dominated by formidable carnivores. These included crocodiles over 8 meters long, species like Anthropophagus, whose fossilized remains have been found alongside early human bones, suggesting predation. Smilodons, saber-toothed cats with dagger-like fangs, roamed the open plains. Giant hyenas, cave bears, and raptors, with enough strength to snatch away small children, were ever-present threats. Early humans were physically vulnerable. They lacked claws, sharp teeth, powerful jaws, and speed. They were slower, weaker, and far less equipped for physical confrontation than the predators around them. Their survival did not depend on muscle. It depended on intelligence, adaptability, and cooperation. Each encounter with danger shaped the evolutionary path of our species. Fear was not just an emotion, it was an evolutionary catalyst. It forced early humans to innovate. They sought shelter in caves, crafted tools from stone, and learned to wield fire as both a tool and a weapon. These responses were not random. They were calculated, deliberate, and shared among groups. The beginnings of strategy, planning, warning others, defending territory, may have emerged from the simple need to avoid being eaten. Predation pressure created an evolutionary crucible. Those who hesitated perished. Those who learned survived. Over generations, These survival behaviors became wired into the human brain, shaping our vigilance, social instincts, and capacity for foresight. The fossil record tells the story. Cut marks on bones show evidence of scavenging and conflict. Layers of ash point to fire pits used for protection. Patterns of migration suggest avoidance of predator-heavy zones. Being hunted left a mark not only on our physical evolution, but on our psychology. Even today, our brains are hypersensitive to threats, real or imagined. The legacy of life as prey remains deeply embedded in our reflexes, fears, and instinctive behaviors. The journey from prey to predator was not a sudden transformation. It was a long, slow ascent, driven by necessity, by learning, and by the need to outthink rather than outfight our enemies. Before we hunted mammoths or built cities, we ran from the jaws of beasts. And it was in those moments of desperation that the foundations of human intelligence were laid. Section 3. Survival through intelligence. Humans were never the strongest species, but they were the most intelligent. In a world where physical power often meant survival, our ancestors found an alternative path. They compensated for their physical limitations with cognitive innovation. The earliest humans began shaping their environment using tools, first with sharpened sticks and stones, then with hand axes, blades, and composite weapons. The mastery of fire marked a turning point. Cooking made food more digestible, increased caloric intake, and supported rapid brain development. With every innovation, survival became less about brute force and more about problem solving. But intelligence alone was not enough. The key to human resilience lay in social organization. Early humans formed cooperative groups, sharing resources, dividing labor, and coordinating during hunts. They protected the young and injured, and they passed on knowledge through observation and imitation. While apex predators like saber-toothed cats relied on solitary instinct, humans thrived through collective strategy. They communicated, adapted, and made decisions that benefited the group. These behaviors laid the foundation for culture, teaching, and long-term planning. The evolutionary advantage of intelligence became clear. Over time, Homo sapiens did more than survive. They reshaped ecosystems. By designing traps, coordinating large-scale hunts, and exploiting fire to flush out prey, they disrupted food chains and accelerated the extinction of many large species. Evidence from archaeological sites reveals patterns of strategic behavior. Animal bones arranged in butchering zones, fire pits in defensible locations, and tool caches placed for future use. These were not accidental behaviors. They were signs of foresight, intention, and cognitive complexity. Intelligence turned predators into prey. It transformed the hunted into the dominant species, and it allowed humans not only to persist, but to dominate every biome on Earth, from arid deserts to icy tundras. The rise of Homo sapiens was not the result of superior strength, but of strategic adaptation. Our survival was engineered through innovation, cooperation, and the ability to learn from failure. What began as a fragile species avoiding predators became a force capable of altering entire landscapes. And that transformation, from reacting to controlling, was powered entirely by the mind. Section 4. The real enemy. After overcoming every predator nature had to offer, humans faced a new kind of threat. The most dangerous one yet: themselves. No other species kills for pleasure. No predator hunts purely for trophies. Lions do not slaughter herds of antelope to assert dominance. Wolves do not bone forests. Crocodiles do not wage war. Humans do. Across history, Homo sapiens have turned their intelligence not only toward survival, but toward destruction. War, genocide, environmental collapse. These are not byproducts of instinct. They are products of conscious decision-making. From the moment we created tools, we also created weapons. Spears became swords. Swords became guns. Arrows gave way to missiles. The same minds that built shelter and fire also engineered machines capable of annihilation. Neanderthals never reached that point. Archaeological evidence shows no signs of mass violence or organized conflict. They hunted, they crafted, they lived. And then they vanished. In contrast, Homo sapiens endured, but endurance came with a cost. As our influence grew, so did our capacity to alter ecosystems, erase species, and destabilize the climate that once shaped us. We became the first species to pose a threat not just to others, but to the planet itself. The tools that allowed us to survive predators eventually allowed us to dominate everything else. And in the process, we became disconnected from the natural boundaries that once governed our existence. This shift wasn't inevitable. It was a consequence of how we chose to use our intelligence. Unlike other animals, we are capable of reflection, of recognizing the long-term consequences of our actions. The greatest evolutionary leap may not have been our rise to dominance, but our ability to understand that with power comes responsibility. The lesson is not in how we climb the ladder of survival. It lies in how we wield what we've gained. Neanderthals are gone, and they took nothing with them. We are still here, but what we leave behind will define what kind of species we truly are. The most enduring threat to human life is not disease, disaster, or wild beasts. It is our own choices. And the question is no longer whether we can survive, but whether we are wise enough to choose survival over destruction. Section 5. Prehistoric longevity. The truth behind the legend. Claims that prehistoric humans lived for hundreds of years have no basis in scientific evidence. Fossil analysis shows that Neanderthals, Homo erectus, and early Homo sapiens typically died between the ages of 20 and 30. This low average lifespan was primarily due to extremely high infant and child mortality rates, frequent infections, trauma, and the complete absence of medical care. A short average lifespan does not mean no one lived into old age. Some individuals certainly did, but they were rare. Most never reached what we would now consider middle age. Many died in adolescence or early adulthood. Skeletal remains confirm this reality. Dental wear, arthritis, and bone fractures are frequently found in individuals estimated to be only in their 20s. By modern standards, signs of aging appeared early, likely a result of harsh living conditions, poor nutrition, and physical strain. Legends of humans living 800 years, such as those found in religious texts like the Bible, are symbolic, not historical. They reflect cultural storytelling, not biological reality. No archaeological evidence supports such claims. The oldest individuals found in prehistoric burial sites often show advanced wear on teeth and joints, but rarely exceed 40 years of age. Even with favorable conditions, survival past 50 was exceptional. Understanding the context is essential. In prehistoric societies, just surviving childhood was a significant achievement. For those who did, disease, injury, or complications from childbirth often followed. Death could come swiftly and without warning. Despite their short lives, early humans passed down critical knowledge and traditions. Their contributions, fire, tools, social structures, endured far beyond their years. In that sense, their legacy is not measured in decades lived, but in the foundation they built for all future generations. Modern life expectancy has changed dramatically, but it is a recent development tied to advancements in sanitation, medicine, agriculture, and social stability. For most of human history, aging into one's 40s or 50s was a rarity, not the norm. The truth is sobering, but important. Our ancestors lived short, often painful lives. Yet their resilience, creativity, and adaptability made our world possible. What they lacked in years, they made up for in impact. The myth of ancient, long life persists. But science offers a more meaningful story, one grounded in struggle, survival, and the human capacity to endure against overwhelming odds. Section 6. When humans learn to live longer. Historical records from ancient Greece and Rome mark the first consistent evidence of long-lived individuals. Philosophers like Pythagoras reportedly lived to 75. Hippocrates and Sophocles reached 90. Gorgias is said to have died at 108. These were exceptions, not the rule. For the majority, especially among the poor, life expectancy remained low due to widespread child mortality, disease, and lack of medical knowledge. In the Roman Empire, average life expectancy was 30 to 35 years, but if someone survived past age 15, they often lived into their 60s or even 70s. The medieval period reversed some of that progress. Plagues and poor sanitation lowered life expectancy again, with many individuals dying by age 45. Wars, famine, and high maternal mortality further constrained lifespans. Real change began in the 19th century. The Industrial Revolution brought with it a wave of innovation in hygiene, nutrition, and medicine. Clean water systems, vaccination programs, antiseptic procedures, and scientific research transformed public health. As a result, life expectancy began to rise steadily across social classes. By 1900, the global average life expectancy was around 48 years. By 2020, it had increased to approximately 73 for men and 79 for women. This transformation was not driven by genetic evolution. The human genome has changed little over the past few thousand years. Instead, the shift reflects changes in environment, infrastructure, healthcare systems, education, and nutrition. Humans learned to live longer, not by becoming biologically different, but by re-engineering the conditions in which life unfolds. Survival was no longer dictated solely by chance or geography. It became a function of policy, planning, and science. Modern longevity is the result of coordinated knowledge, from germ theory and antibiotics to social safety nets and food security. Today, access to that longevity remains unequal, but the principle stands. When supported by stable systems and informed societies, the human lifespan can be extended dramatically. The ability to grow old, once a rare privilege, has become a statistical expectation in much of the world. It is not a gift from evolution, it is a human achievement. The lesson is clear. While we cannot stop aging, we have learned how to slow its grip, not through miracles or myths, but through the power of collective knowledge applied over generations. Section 7. The evolution of childhood. Among all primates, humans have the longest childhood. From early Homo sapiens to the present, the human developmental timeline has expanded. Infancy, childhood, and adolescence have progressively stretched across generations. This extended growth period is not a biological flaw. It's an evolutionary strategy. A longer childhood provides more time for learning. It allows individuals to acquire language, social behaviors, abstract thinking, and cultural knowledge. Unlike species that reach maturity quickly and rely on instinct, humans depend on prolonged exposure to guidance, observation, and trial and error. This strategy is reflected in neurological development. The human brain continues growing and restructuring well into the 20s. Cognitive flexibility, memory, emotional regulation, and decision-making all benefit from a slow maturation process. Modern anthropology identifies two general patterns of human development. Early developers, individuals who mature quickly and age rapidly, commonly found in traditional or high-stress environments, especially in colder climates where survival pressure is immediate. Slow developers, individuals who reach maturity later and experience slower biological aging, more prevalent in modern, resource-stable societies. This divergence is not new. It has roots in our evolutionary past. Groups under high survival pressure favored rapid reproduction. Those in more stable conditions invested in longer-term development, allowing for advanced skills, innovation, and knowledge transmission. An extended childhood is a marker of a complex brain. It signals a species that survives not by strength or speed, but by adaptability and learning. The longer a brain remains open to instruction, the more sophisticated its internal world becomes. Culture, science, ethics, all of it emerges from a mind given time to grow. In evolutionary terms, survival isn't just about running fast or fighting hard. It's about learning enough, early enough, to make better choices later. That's what prolonged childhood enables. Our ancestors may not have understood this consciously, but their success and ours rests on that quiet, powerful advantage, the patience to grow before acting. Section 8. Survival Lessons from History. Neanderthals are gone, despite their physical strength. The great predators of the Ice Age are extinct. Homo sapiens remain. But the question is no longer just about survival. It is about sustainability. Are we truly living, or entering a new cycle of extinction? Today, humans live longer, think faster, and possess technologies capable of saving millions of lives. But we are also the most environmentally destructive species in Earth's history. Climate change, global conflict, ecological collapse. These are not external forces. They are consequences of human behavior. Neanderthals did not foresee their end. They did not understand the conditions that were leading to their decline. They adapted slowly, responded instinctively, and vanished. Homo sapiens, in contrast, have foresight. We can model outcomes, anticipate threats, and alter our course. That capacity to look ahead is what makes us unique among all extinct lineages. And yet, we continue to repeat mistakes we fully understand. Our greatest evolutionary advantage is not strength, speed, or even intelligence. It is adaptability through awareness. The ability to change not just as a reaction to danger, but in preparation for it. We are the only species capable of engineering its own survival or its own collapse. The legacy of past extinctions is clear. Power without restraint leads to decline. Intelligence without wisdom leads to destruction. Every vanished species offers a warning, the Neanderthals among them. We cannot return to caves or undo the damage already done, but we can learn from fear, from failure, and from the traces left in our DNA. Survival today demands more than physical endurance. It requires global cooperation, technological responsibility, and ecological accountability. The timeline of our species is not finished, but its direction is not guaranteed. To live is no longer enough. We must now choose what kind of ancestors we will become. In the story of life on Earth, every extinction began with dominance, followed by disruption. Every survival began with humility, followed by change. What we do next will determine which legacy we leave behind, that of a vanished species, or one that learned in time to survive its own success.